Okay guys, welcome back. I recorded this video and it didn't work, so I'm gonna try again, but this thing makes me so mad. All right, but anyways, what we were talking about was parallel and perpendicular lines in the slopes. Okay, so we were talking about slope. Now remember, parallel lines have the same slope and perpendicular lines have slopes which are negative reciprocals. So what that means is, if you see down below, if the slope we start with is 4, okay, a parallel line would have a slope of 4. If we have a slope that's 4 or 4 over 1 and the lines are perpendicular, then we would switch the numerator and denominator and we would just change the sign of the original slope. So we go from 4 over 1 to negative 1 over 4 for perpendicular slopes. So if we look, line y has a slope of negative 5. Line x is parallel to line y. What's the slope of line x? Well, the slope is negative 5 because line x and y have the same slope since they are parallel, and thus negative 5. For perpendicular lines, we have negative 4 over 5 is the slope of line w. Line f is perpendicular to line w. What's the slope of line f? Well, we take the negative reciprocal. So we take 4 over 5, we switch those, 5 goes on the top, 4 on the bottom, and we change the sign. So it becomes positive 5 over 4. Now, if we wanted to figure out whether lines AB and CD are parallel, perpendicular, or neither, remember that line AB has points A and B on it, as noted below, and line CD would have points C and D on them. So what we need to do here is what? Well, we need to find the slopes of line AB and line CD and compare them. If they're the same, then the lines are parallel. If they're negative reciprocals, then the lines are perpendicular. And if neither of those apply, then it's neither. So when I calculate it, the slope of AB is 13 over 25, and the slope of CD is 12. Those are not the same. They're not negative reciprocals. They are neither. Some other general qualities of slope. If you have a line that goes down and to the right, that's a negative slope. If you have a line that goes up and to the right, it's positive slope. Vertical lines have what we call undefined slope, and horizontal lines have no slope, or zero slope. So a horizontal line has the equation y equals a number, since it passes through the y-axis. Now, the slope of a horizontal line is 0, since it never goes up or down. It only goes left to right, so there is no rise. If we plugged in 0 for the rise, and we divided by the run, whatever the run would be, it would be 0 overall. So horizontal lines have a slope of 0. For vertical lines, they always have the equation x equals because they always pass through the x-axis. Now, the rise over run, the slope of a vertical line, it never goes left or right, so the run is 0. And since the rise over run would turn into rise over 0, we cannot divide by 0, so the slope's undefined. Now, if we want to find the slope from a graph, we're going to pick 2 points, and you're going to pick the corner of the boxes on the coordinate plane, okay? Count the rise, and then count the run. Divide the rise over run, and you get the slope. Notice here, I started with J and K. Those were already given, so that was an easy one. I went up 5 from J to get in line with K, and then I went 4 to the right. So the rise over run was 5 over 4. And the slope was obviously positive because the line goes up and to the right. Now, for the one down the bottom here, we have a line with a negative slope. The rise is 1, the run's negative 2. We went up 1 and to the left negative 2. So the slope is negative 1/2. This line goes down and to the right. So we know it's going to have a negative slope. So if we want to find equations of lines, we're going to look and find the slope from those. We need to look at 2 equations, slope-intercept form and point-slope form. The first one, slope-intercept form, is y equals mx plus b, where the m represents the slope and b represents the y-intercept. Point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. M is the slope. X1 and y1 are the coordinates of the point on the line. So, if I wanted to find the slope and y, and y-intercept of y equals negative 4x plus 6, negative 4 is where the m usually is, 6 is where the b usually is, so the slope is negative 4, and the y-intercept is 6. For the equation 3x minus 2y equals 8, it's not in slope-intercept form, so we do not yet know what the slope and y-intercept are. If a line is not in slope-intercept form, we need to put it in slope-intercept form by solving for y. In this case, I first subtracted 3x from both sides, then divided by negative 2. Since 3/2 is next to x, that is the slope, and negative 4 is the other number, hanging out with the x and the slope, so that is the y-intercept. More examples are listed below for your convenience. For a point slope equation of a line, the slope is fairly simple to identify. It's just the number next to the x's, in this case 6. If we want to go from point slope form to slope intercept form, what we're going to do is you're going to distribute on the right-hand side of the equation and isolate y. The reason for this is we want to find the y-intercept. Notice in this example below, the slope's negative 5, since that is where it's front of the parentheses with x. So we distribute on the right-hand side, and then I subtract the 6 to get y by itself. The slope is negative 5, and the y-intercept is negative 26. Next one, slope and y-intercept of this equation. I distributed the 1/2, and I added the 10 over, so I get y equals 1/2 x plus 6. The slope is 1/2. The y-intercept is 6. Now, what you'll find is in some equations, there's no x or there's no y. So if you see an equation with no x, then you know it's a vertical line. A horizontal line, because y equals a number is a horizontal line equation. If there's no y in your equation and there are only x's, we want to solve for x, and that would give us a vertical line. In the example below, I see that there's no x's once I look at the equation. I solve for y and I get y equals 3. Now, a horizontal line has no slope, and it always passes through the y-axis at the point 0, 3, so the y-intercept is 3. For this last problem here, I want to find the slope of the equation 3x minus 9 equals 2x plus 4. Again, there are no y's, so when there are no y's, I solve for x. I get x by itself and I get x equals 13. Remember, x equals 13 is a vertical line. It has an undefined slope, and since it never passes through the y-axis, it's going to have no y-intercept. The only vertical line that has a y-intercept is x equals 0, since x equals 0 happens to be the y-axis, and it will intersect the y-axis at every single point, which really means there are an infinite number of y-intercepts for the equation x equals 0. So I hope you've enjoyed that. This lecture is about half as long as the other one, and I sure hope it works once I save it. So check on Portals and Classroom for your homework, and have a wonderful weekend.